You guys know I had to come out with another hot takes video, too many takes to not include in my morning video, so if you did miss that one from earlier today, I'll leave it linked in the description. It'll also be the first video on the end screen of this one. So let's continue where we left off, shall we? So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. This first take comes to us from Guzmani. Patrick Williams will win Most Improved Player next season. I think this is a bit of a stretch. I do think we'll see a significant improvement in Patrick Williams after having a full offseason and a summer league to prepare for this upcoming year, something he didn't have last year given that he was drafted in the middle of a pandemic and was playing in his first regular season game just 1 month after being drafted. That was the extent of his offseason, but Most Improved Player, I don't see him improving that greatly between his rookie and sophomore season, not unless he starts averaging close to 20 points per game, 7 rebounds, and makes an all-defensive team to close out the year. Then, in that instance, for sure, he would win Most Improved Player. But I think the Bulls need to understand, or I guess Bulls fans need to understand, that the progression of Patrick Williams is likely going to be a slow one, and I don't expect him to have an insane breakout year going into his second season. I expect a lot of growth and improvement, but he's not going to all of a sudden just jump to being a star in 1 year at the age of 20. Next, this one comes to us from Hitty390 in the Discord. Feel free to join the Discord, by the way. The link to that can be found in the description. The Bulls would not trade LaVine if they were given a straight-up deal for Anthony Davis. Well, they couldn't do it straight up because the money wouldn't work, but I know what you mean. And yes, I think the point is well taken. Yeah, it's possible the Bulls likely wouldn't make this trade straight up if given the opportunity, at least not now anyway. If it was last season, it would be a completely different story because I think Anthony Davis's injuries are starting to become more of a valid concern. I mean, when a healthy Anthony Davis, is playing, he's obviously a better player. I know that some fans might not like to hear that, but he is. He's without a doubt the better all-around player because of what he brings on both ends of the floor. But you're only as good as you are available on the court, and more often than not, Zach is available to play while Anthony Davis is not. I personally would make that trade if it was offered straight up because I do still think Anthony Davis will be back to being healthy and continue playing at the star level that we've seen from him, but I don't think the front office would make that trade, and I can really see the other side of the token as well because Zach LaVine is a very good player, still has up-and-coming potential, and he's not injury-prone like Anthony Davis is. Next up, we've got Styrofoam Cups. If Michael Jordan's father had never gotten murdered and Jerry Krause had kept Phil Jackson as the head coach, the Bulls would have 10-peated. It's funny because I made a video just a few days ago on whether the Bulls would have won the title in 1999 had they kept the dynasty team together. Feel free to check that out in case you missed it. But even though I do think the Bulls would have ultimately won the title in that year in defeating the San Antonio Spurs, when actually going back and looking at the teams that they would have had to face, and also the ages of the three main guys, and Michael Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman, it certainly wasn't a slam dunk that they would have won that year. Now, 10-peated, well, I definitely think they would have won 8 straight, winning those titles in 94 and 95 had Michael Jordan not left to go play baseball. And like I said, they would have won the title in 1999, making it 9 straight. But another title in 2000, this time having to go against a young Shaq and Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman would have all been in their mid to late 30s. I think it's really unlikely that they would have been able to pull off another title, especially with all the mileage on their belts after having won 9 straight titles. That's a lot of games and a lot of minutes for every player on that team. So I think 8 straight would have absolutely happened. 9 straight, I would give it a 50-50 chance, but 10 straight, no, I don't think the Bulls would have had the stamina to pull off another one. This next one comes to us from BTN Storm. Even if Derrick Rose never got injured, the Bulls still would not have won a championship. We're not beating the Heat, and D Rose's play style does not work as efficiently in the Curry era. And I think you did mean a Curry era and not current era, although either way it really does apply. So this one is interesting because I think the general consensus from Bulls fans, myself included, is that had Rose never gotten injured, the Bulls would have won at least one title. Now, I am of the opinion that they would have won only one title, not multiple. I do think they would have won in 2012, the year that Rose tore his ACL, just because that team was so solid and they had bounced back better than before from the prior season and were looking for revenge against the Miami Heat after losing to them in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2011. But after 2012, it would have been pretty hard because even as early as 2013, the league had started migrating to a three-point shooting league of pace and space offense, which, as you mentioned, was not Rose's play style. He was an okay three-point shooter, but more so known for his ability to slash to the hoop. And with the Bulls not really having floor spacers on that team, they would have struggled making a deep run in the playoffs. On top of that, the Heat got better and better. Then, of course, after LeBron left Miami, the Warriors broke out and became the best team in the league, which I think the Bulls would have struggled against even with a healthy Derrick Rose. So I can see why you would make this take. I certainly think it's possible the Bulls might still have fallen short of a title even if the guys had stayed healthy, but I personally think that they would have won at least one had Derrick Rose never gotten injured. This next one comes to us from EJ Paranol. Zach could plateau in scoring but would improve in defense significantly. So I would actually, I would have loved if this happened, because Zach plateauing on scoring isn't a bad thing. You're talking about a guy capping out on scoring at 27 or 28 points per game. That's still elite level scoring. Now you add defense to LaVine's game, that's potentially one of the best players in the league that could have the kind of two-way game, and it would elevate the Bulls significantly if he was able to pull that off. My hope is that LaVine's scoring numbers actually do go down a bit, realizing that there are other guys on the team who can be the number one option on certain nights, and start focusing more on his playmaking and his defense to really round out his game and becoming a more all-around player that the Bulls need as their franchise player. Next, we've got Marcelo Spizziri. Coby will average 20 points per game next season. I think Coby will certainly improve his scoring. He's averaged, or this past season, he averaged 15.1 points per game. And keep in mind, he was benched for a portion of the year and wasn't getting as many minutes. I think, him going from 15 to 20 is a big leap. I would say Coby will likely average closer to 17 next season, given LaVine and Vucevic will get theirs and averaging close to 25 points per game. I think we'll see Patrick Williams' offensive numbers increase as well. So I'm not sure there would be enough scoring to go around to also see Coby average 20 or more points per game next year. But again, I do believe he'll take a step forward in scoring more this upcoming season. The other thing to keep in mind is, what's Coby's role going to look like next year? A lot of it depends on whether the front office brings in a veteran point guard to start, or even Lonzo Ball, or let's say they get very lucky in the lottery draft and actually land the number one pick and bring in Cade Cunningham to start as the point guard. So, then obviously you would see Coby's minutes reduced as a result, and his scoring output to likely be a little less. Next up, we've got João Ferreira. Sorry, I really hope I pronounced that correctly. If we win the draft lottery, we can get Kawhi and some friends like Ibaka for cheap, and we are a title contender. Best regards from Portugal. I'm a Bulls fan since the MJ's first years. Well, shout out to all of the Portuguese Bulls fans, and also for all of you tuning in internationally. Always great to see the Bulls representation globally. Now, as for your take, so I assume you mean by winning the lottery, you mean landing the number one pick, which the Bulls have a 4.5% chance of winning. So very low odds, but obviously not impossible. But let's say that they do land the number one pick, which they will most likely keep. I've said before that I think the Bulls will likely trade the pick if it falls anywhere between 2 and 4, but if it lands at the number one pick, they will keep it to draft Cade Cunningham, as he fits exactly what the Bulls are needing as their starting point guard. Now, if we win the draft lottery and select Cade Cunningham, it certainly helps our chances in free agency, because now you have a playmaking point guard who is believed to be a generational talent in the future to put alongside already 2 All-Stars in Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. That being said, I don't think we would get Kawhi as a result. Now, had the Clippers lost in the first round to the Mavs, like I thought was going to happen after watching the first 2 games, that might have been a different story, because I think Kawhi's likelihood of leaving LA would have been higher. But even then, I doubt he would have come to Chicago. Now, you also mentioned we would get Kawhi and some friends like Ibaka for cheap. Well, I hope you meant by the some friends part for the guys that we would be able to get for cheap, because Kawhi isn't taking anything less than a max contract. And as the Bulls books currently stand, they wouldn't be able to afford Kawhi on a max contract, let alone some of these additional pieces that you mentioned, even if we were be able to get them for cheap. The Bulls would have to waive guys, make trades in order to free up enough cap space for someone like Kawhi Leonard. And at the end of the day, I don't see Kawhi leaving the Clippers. And even if he does, he's not going to come to the Bulls. And that's even if they land the number 1 pick. Would they be title contenders, as you said, if they were to actually get the number 1 pick and get Kawhi? Yeah, absolutely. Now you're talking about Kawhi, LaVine, and Vucevic, and the number 1 overall pick in Cade Cunningham. Not saying that would instantly win a championship, but that's a title contending team for sure, without a doubt. I'm going to leave it there for now though, guys, for this week's hot takes, but be sure to leave your takes in this video or in any video on the channel, and I'll try to include it in next week's Bulls hot takes series. Also, guys, if you've made it this far, I've had a couple people ask for a live Q&A session on the channel with me, so let me know in the comments if you would be interested in that, and I'll try to get something scheduled during the off season for it. I'm considering doing a live reaction video to the NBA draft lottery to see if the Bulls get lucky in landing the top 4 pick. Let me know if you guys would tune into that as well. As always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan and you enjoy daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, as always, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.